W5.
I was asked if I was a bitch, a slut, or a lesbian by a senior officer.
Female officers preyed on by their peers.
You actually felt as though your life was in danger.
Yes. Nobody could have told me that this is where you're going to end up.
It's unacceptable. We need to do better.
And
this is a new virus that we haven't before described.
creatures of the night and COVID-19.
When these viruses move from bats into humans, very high case fatality rate.
So what kind is it? Big brown bat. Nice.
What is it that is special about the immune system of bats?
CTV's W5 with Avery Haines.
Welcome to W5. The final report into an unprecedented sexual harassment settlement involving the RCMP has recently been released. In it, they describe the culture as toxic and misogynistic and in need of an external review. But it's not just the Mounties. A W5 investigation reveals that women in municipal forces right across the country have similar and harrowing complaints.
It's a very busy division. There was never really a day where we didn't have major calls like shootings or stabbings or attempts suicide.
For 9 years, Constable Effie Zarabi patrolled these streets. The front lines of 51 Division, one of the grittier neighborhoods in downtown Toronto.
So we just crossed River Street. This area is Regent Park, very busy area.
These days, this landscape is an emotional roller coaster, where even a siren is a trigger.
It just makes me freeze. And then I think about all the times I drove with my lights and sirens. This is my division. This is my station, and it was like my second home. And now I can't even look at it.
A second home that now feels like enemy territory, and not because of the inherent dangers of fighting crime.
I'm okay with being sworn at and being spit on, and all those things are part of your job. But being abused and being assaulted by your own colleagues and not having support from your own employer is something that it's not easily forgotten.
You had this dream from a teenager that you wanted to be a police officer. What was it like the moment you put your Toronto police uniform on?
Oh, it was the proudest, it was the best thing ever. All the hard work paid off. I love my career. I sacrificed so much for my career, but this isn't worth it.
What isn't worth it is what Effie claims is ongoing sexual harassment within the Toronto Police.
They have a huge problem, but they don't even want to admit it. If you don't admit you have a problem, how are you going to solve it? How are you going to fix it?
Effie is now on stress leave. She's one of 3 female police officers from the same downtown division who broke ranks and joined forces, threatening to sue Toronto police for enabling a toxic, racist, and sexist culture. A culture, Effie says, that would lead to personal attacks against her.
Since you're a cop, part of your job is compiling evidence.
Yes.
And you've compiled evidence in your allegations against the Toronto police.
Yes. People don't believe you unless you show them that this is what's happening, because it's so outrageous.
Effie collected dozens of pornographic and offensive exchanges between a group of male officers on her shift. Among them, a racist meme with a caption that reads, "If you hold a black baby to your ear, you can hear the police sirens." And then there was what Effie was subjected to in her own squad room.
Here's my booking hall where there's tons of pornography magazines just sitting around. It's very degrading as a woman to sit there and see this stuff. That line is just crossed. There's so many things that you know is not normal but happens in policing because it's the culture.
And Effie claims that this hyper-sexualized culture of some of her fellow officers
spilled over to civilians.
When I search female prisoners, I would have officers, when I come out of the search room, ask me, are her tits fake? Does she shave her vagina?
Effie's statement of claim goes even further.
When officers attend a sexual assault radio call, they often ask by male colleagues if she's attractive, and the complainant is often judged negatively by male officers for her actions, such as drinking alcohol.
You heard male officers commenting on what a sexual assault survivor looks like?
Yes, it's shocking for the public, and it's shocking for us. But you know, when you're in this environment all the time, unfortunately, it becomes a part of your everyday life.
Effie didn't speak up for years, but everything changed one night when she agreed to socialize with two of her male colleagues after hours.
He had just walked beside me and got in front of the door and said to me, if you don't have sex with both of us tonight, I'm going to tell everybody you had sex with us. And that's the moment I realized, you know, uh-oh, this is not good. If I was to get dragged in there and get raped, it would be my fault.
Effie, you're telling me that 2 Toronto police officers who you worked with put you in a position where you were fearful that they were going to rape you?
Absolutely.
One of those same officers, Effie says, later sent a group text to others in her platoon.
What did the text message say?
He asked if my private parts is Brillo-y like a black chick. How disgusting is that? How inappropriate.
Effie eventually complained to a supervisor about what she says was relentless sexual harassment. Scared of the repercussions, she recorded the conversation by wearing a hidden camera.
So I think that they may not know that it's offending. And you got to remember, this is still a predominantly a male-dominant profession. And you've got relatively young, if I could call them kids, on the platoon.
Then if I was to go the other way and just put in a complaint, would I be able to have you as a witness officer?
You can. I will be there. I have no choice in the matter. But I think what you might want to do is think about the ramifications, short term, medium, and long term. You don't want to be this person to be labeled as such.
You can't speak up, you would be labeled as a rat. If that's not a message to other victims or other women, I don't know what is.
Effie is now taking her allegations to the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. It could take years. The widely reported threat to sue the Toronto police fizzled when the 2 other officers settled in exchange for signing a non-disclosure agreement. It means Effie is now the only one of the 3 with a voice.
Why didn't you settle?
Because I didn't want to leave anybody behind. Because settling is not going to change the culture. Settling is not going to change the problem. I couldn't bring myself to even think about quitting or walking away. I just couldn't do it.
Thousands of women with Canada's National Police Service also wanted to have their voices heard. This blockbuster class action lawsuit was settled by the RCMP in 2016. More than 3,000 women came forward. It's expected to cost taxpayers more than $100 million. And it came with a public apology from then Commissioner Bob Poulsen.
Instead of succeeding and thriving in a supportive and inclusive workplace, many women have suffered careers scarred by gender and sexual discrimination, bullying, and harassment. I stand humbly before you today and solemnly offer our sincere apology.
This victory echoed across Canada. Female officers who had been fearful of speaking up gained new confidence, including in Waterloo, Ontario.
Now to a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit led by 3 plaintiffs who claim their calls for change at the Waterloo Regional Police Service were dismissed, ignored, and ridiculed.
I volunteered right away to take part in it. I thought that would finally make some impact.
Angie Rivers, a 13-year veteran of Waterloo Regional Police, was one of the representative plaintiffs in the class action.
I was devastated that he thought of me as sexual prey. One of the sergeants who I had looked up to as a mentor, started sending me flirtatious text messages, dirty jokes, commenting on my appearance. He ended up hitting on me and asking me for naked pictures of myself.
This is your mentor?
This is my mentor, yes. He wasn't teaching me, he was grooming me.
Angie says when she tried to complain about the sexual harassment, she was punished by her colleagues, who started refusing to answer her calls for backup.
The environment got so toxic for you at work that you actually felt as though your life was in danger. These guys aren't responding to a call when you're out in a parking lot at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. I remember going home and telling my husband, if anything ever happens to me at work, make sure that it's investigated because I'm not getting backup. So for someone to blatantly put another officer at risk is just shocking.
The discipline? Angie's mentor was forced to take a sensitivity course and was docked less than 1 week of pay. He wasn't taken off the job and is still working. Feeling isolated, humiliated, and ostracized, Angie's mental health spiraled.
I didn't want to die, but for some reason I couldn't stop imagining blowing my brains out in the office. And it was like a movie reel, the blood all over the walls, and that was my mind's way of saying, you need to get out now.
Angie is now on paid stress leave from the Waterloo Police Service. The class action lawsuit went all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, where it was rejected on the grounds that complaints should go to the union first. Waterloo's police chief, Brian Larkin, says he is committed to changing the culture.
It's unfortunate, it's regrettable that our members have to face the behaviors, have to face some of the challenges that they face. And I think our collective responsibility and my responsibility is to tear down those systemic barriers, tear down that culture that creates that or allows it to happen.
Her life was in danger. They were refusing to answer her calls for backup.
It's heart-wrenching. There's no other way to put that. And in today's world, it's unacceptable. And I think that that has to be the focus of the change. And these are the courageous conversations that we need to have. It's unacceptable. We need to do better.
Coming up.
Is sexual harassment systemic in policing?
Absolutely it is.
Pushing back against a culture of abuse.
We want to move the needle in good and positive ways.
When W5 continues. News.
There's a dark shadow on policing in this country. A profession with a mandate to serve and protect the public has failed some of its own. While many officers who endure sexual harassment walk away quietly from their jobs, often silenced by non-disclosure agreements, Jen Magnus resigned publicly.
My name is Jen Magnus, and I am here today to speak about a decision I have made regarding the Calgary Police Service. It is with a heavy heart that I resign from the Calgary Police Service.
I'm really surprised that you've never watched the video of your resignation.
Yeah, I guess I've been avoiding it.
Are you okay to watch it now?
Sure, let's do this.
I have been bullied, sexually harassed, degraded, and chastised. The stresses of all this have had a tremendous impact on not only me and my mental and physical health, but also my family.
What's that like watching?
That was hard. It feels like it wasn't me.
Jen was one of 14 officers with the Calgary Police Service who came together in 2017, claiming sexual harassment and a poisoned workplace.
How would you describe your years in uniform?
My first day on the job, I was asked if I was a bitch, a slut, or a lesbian by a senior officer. And it was shocking to me.
Jen says from day one, she faced an avalanche of sexual advances. And before her dramatic departure, tried everything to get it to stop.
I went to the association, I went to Human Resources, and I said, listen, I'm not being treated well.
You were a black sheep because you spoke up.
Absolutely, I was.
And you were being punished.
Yeah, and in fact, instead of a black sheep, I was actually called by the inspector of HR a lone wolf. And nobody trusted me, and no one wanted to work with me. And I was devastated. I thought I was trying to make the organization better, and throughout that entire time, they were doing nothing but pushing me down.
Jen's complaints prompted a workplace review, which heard from an astounding 65 members of the Calgary Police Service. A review kept internal until Jen filed a Freedom of Information request. Among the findings, that there was a level of fear and intimidation, concerns of an old boys network, and feelings of being devalued and abandoned by HR.
What was in that report that made you say, okay, my story has been validated?
The treatment of female police officers, the sexual harassment, the harassment. And I recognized that it wasn't just me, there were other people that were suffering as well.
Despite the findings, Jen says she paid a heavy price for speaking out. She became a pariah, leading her to that tearful public resignation.
I did not leave the Calgary Police Service. The Calgary Police Service left me.
The very chief who she says failed her awkwardly tried to console her in front of the cameras.
Your focus has been now on research and looking at this problem from an academic standpoint.
Yes.
Is sexual harassment systemic in policing?
Absolutely it is. To this day, I have a friend who's still on the job, and she continually is mentoring and helping police women on the job who are suffering sexual harassment within the Calgary Police Service. She hears horrific stories. She is trying to help them, but they are so fearful. And what some of them have said, we don't want to end up like Jen, where her career was ruined. And so they stay quiet.
That must be a really difficult thing to hear, given that you thought that by doing all of this, it was going to empower women. Instead, it's made them more afraid because they don't want to end up like you.
It's heartbreaking, but I understand. I don't blame them because I don't feel the service is at a point where you can safely speak out. Your career will likely be ruined because there's not enough leaders within the organization to bring forward that change and support.
While Jen resigned, the other 13 officers in Calgary went separate ways. Some still pursuing legal action, others silenced by the cost or fearful of further backlash. Jen hopes that Chief Mark Neufeld, who took the helm of Calgary Police in the summer of 2019, is part of a change.
No matter who or where you are in this organization, your contributions matter. Indeed, you matter, and I want every person to feel connected and valued when they come to work.
I think we're coming through that, I really do. But I think we've been slow to evolve, and I think part of that slowness has been exactly what I said. We've been very, very good at providing service to the community. We've been less good at focusing inside the organization and optimizing our people.
Since his arrival, Chief Neufeld has appointed a new female deputy chief, and the number of women in uniform in Calgary is now 10% higher than the national average.
And I don't for a second tell you that we're perfect, but I will tell you that we are serious about it and that we want to move the needle in good and positive ways.
Across the country, women who have never met each other with hauntingly similar claims that the profession they love is cloaked in a culture of sexism, and that trying to fight it costs them their careers and more. Effie Zarabi, the Toronto police officer who teamed up with two others to try to sue the police service, says she has racked up about $500,000 in legal bills. She says the problem runs deeper than a few bad apples.
It's the guy's fault, the bad apples, but what's the chief doing about it? Nothing. So it's a bad tree, not just an apple.
Toronto's chief, Mark Saunders, says there are clear protocols in place for dealing with sexual harassment.
When it comes to workplace harassment, a supervisor must conduct, so it's not optional, has to conduct an investigation and figure out which streams he or she is going to take that.
Women police officers have told us it is career suicide, even complaining to their supervisor about sexual harassment, that they might as well take their badge and hand it in.
I need to get to the root of that. What do we do to remove the bystanders within our organization? What do we do to make sure that our leaders have a full and comprehensive understanding of not just what to do transactionally, but what to do from a holistic perspective?
When you hear about porn in the booking hall, about women being asked, female officers being asked whether prisoners are shaved or whether they have fake breasts, when you hear this in 2020, what's the gut reaction that you have about what's happening here?
No, it concerns, but first and foremost, I have to be cautious because there are ongoing investigations to some of the points that you're taking. Any type of claims, and I'm going to be clear, these are claims right now, and so in order to get a full understanding, if the matter is serious, which I deem to be very serious, then I have a duty to be comprehensive, and we have interviewed over 60 people.
Complaints they have known about for over 2 years. Yet W5 has learned that a lawyer from the chief's office requested evidence only days before our interview.
From our understanding, the request for information for an investigation was made just a number of days ago before this interview.
I don't understand what the exact timelines are, and even when it comes to the timelines, my bigger concern, why is it that things have to take so long? Why does it take such a long time?
But you're the chief. You should have the answer to why is it taking so long.
And the chief is also, like every other citizen, bound by law.
And your message to a woman who might be watching you right now at one of the Toronto divisions who is being subjected to sexual harassment and is too scared to step forward, what's your message to her?
My message is that if anyone sees anything with regards to workplace harassment, that it should be reported.
And if she does step forward and report it, you promise that she will be protected and not shunned and bullied, and that the harassment will increase?
We will always do our best to protect every single one of the members of the Toronto Police Service. It is vital and it is core that we do just that.
They say the one who shines the light has to endure the burning. Nobody, I don't care who you are, can warn you about something like this. Nobody could have told me that this is where you're going to end up. Times have changed, you know. We demand respect. We don't want special treatment. We want to be equal. We are equal.
While Effie continues to fight for justice, one of her former colleagues, Toronto Constable Heather McWilliam, has won a $75,000 human rights complaint for a poisoned work environment.